Hi, I'm DJ Ware. On this episode of the CyberGizmo, I'm going to be reinstalling Ubuntu 20.04 on hardware with ZFS, and I'll tell you about what happened and what went wrong in the last video right after this. So let me, I'll go ahead and power this up, power up the NUC, and as soon as it comes up, I'll boot to the USB stick that I created from the official release. And what happened last time was that I had inadvertently picked up a beta copy of Ubuntu 20.04 and not the official release. So today we're going to try this again, only today we're going to try it with the official release and try to put ZFS on here this time, hopefully successfully. I was able to boot into the ZFS partition under boxes. However, when I was trying to, I'm going to go ahead and skip this part, but it was telling me that dpackage needed to be run and to fix an incomplete install. And where it had hung up was right after it was completing the localization steps. I don't think it had anything to do with ZFS at all. I think it just had to do with some bugs that was in that beta release. But those, I think, have been fixed, and because I was able to successfully install this on boxes. So, okay, so let's go ahead and install this. And I'll pick the same, the keyboard is US. And I'll do a normal install this time because this is on a real machine, and so I'll want all the utilities out there. And yeah, I could install them myself if I wanted, but I probably will want all that stuff anyway. Now this time it's telling me I need to erase the disk and install Ubuntu. And I'm going to pick advanced features and choose disk on ZFS. Now, I do have a drive that's attached to this, and it's attached as a Thunderbolt device, but I don't see any way to get to it other than doing a manual install and a manual config. So I'm not sure. I mean, most of the distributions that I have worked with lately all see any external drives, whether they're mounted USB or whether they're mounted as Thunderbolt, and we'll give you a choice to boot off them. So I'm not sure why I don't have those options with Ubuntu. But nonetheless, this will install onto the NVMe drive, which is a Samsung 970 EVO. It's a 500 gigabyte. And it's telling me what the partition map will be, and that's fine. I know that my network card is working because it went out to get my location. So that's good. And we'll give it okay. All right. And this will take a few minutes to install, so I'll be right back. It is 15 minutes after midnight. Okay, so it's done, and it's 18 minutes after, so about 3 minutes, probably a little bit over, well, yeah, 4 minutes. So we'll go ahead and restart this, and then it should tell me to remove the media stick, which it is, and I will do that right now. And I'll go ahead and press enter, and we'll reboot the system. I don't know if this is I mean, they said this is supposed to be faster to come up, and I don't know if there's some pre-configuration that's going on here. Now, of course, this is the normal delay that comes up before the NUC actually starts to boot. And then eventually it will attempt to start it, and it is. You hear the fans spinning up. Okay. And we'll go ahead and boot into it. And this is the, just like before, the welcome screen. Live patch. Yes, I'll send information to Canonical. I don't want location services on, and we'll let it go out and search for what apps are available. Okay, good. And we're done. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll add my terminal window to my favorites. And probably by the time I do this, it will have detected that there are updates, but we'll see. I'm sure it won't take very long at all for it to know that. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up the way I want it. And I'll get this text a little bit bigger for you guys so that you can read it. I think that should be enough. Yep, sure enough it did. Now I could do it here. I'll go ahead and do it here. It should ask me to validate with the root account. Let's make sure it's not hidden. Nope, it didn't. Yeah, and it's our, well, is it? I don't think it actually did anything. Nope. All packages are up to date. Okay. So at this point, what I think I want to do is take a look at the ZFS stuff first. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to run the same commands that I do on my BSD machine. This is the OpenZFS 0.8.3, which is starting to converge the feature set between the two. Now, they have not completed that, and they've done a little bit more the convergence in 0.8.4. So we probably won't get an exact match, but that's okay. So the first thing we would probably do is try to spell zpool right, is do a status. And this is going to show me the pools that are created, as well as their physical location on the media. So in my case, there are two partitions that were created, P3 and P4. There's a B pool that was probably is the boot pool, and R pool, which is probably the root file system pool. I'm curious as to what the others are, and I know this probably isn't the smartest thing in the world to do, run an fdisk, but I want to see what partitions they've actually created. So since I'm not going to modify them, I think this is probably okay. P1 is an EFI system. P2 is a Linux swap. Now that's kind of interesting. And then we have a Solaris boot, Solaris root. Now that refers back to ZFS. But interesting that they chose to use a Linux swap. I typically on BSD will use a ZVol and create my swap partitions on a ZVol. Now, I usually take a small part of the disk and we'll create a ZVol from that, which of course is a block device. And so this is an interesting choice. Not sure, maybe ZVols don't work on Linux. I don't know. My experience is BSD. So let's. There's also a short form of the zpool status. If all you want to do is to find out if there's any issues with the pools, you can just run it that way, and it'll check to see if they're all healthy. And in this case, both of them are reporting that they're in healthy, good status. So, yeah. Now, I could, what I need to do now is do a ZFS list, and I could do a zpool list. The difference between the two is ZFS list will actually show you, not here, let's just go through that while we're here, is that it'll show you, this is the pool name, and this would be a data set. So they have created a boot data set, and underneath that, they have Ubuntu BBQM42, whatever that is, but that is assigned to the actual mount point /boot. And then we begin the rpool, which is assigned directly to slash root. And then this is odd. Why would I do a double mount? Don't know why. Whatever the reason is, only Ubuntu would know for sure. But they have a similar type of thing, BBM42, and then there's a slash for root, and then all of the other, all of these are just data sets that map to directories in the root file system. So user, user local, var, var games, var live, all the way down, all through all of the vars. Each of the directories under var appear to have their own mount points. It looks like they didn't really do anything with the availability, so they're just marking out data sets, I guess, to do that. Not sure why they did it this way, but maybe it has to do with snapshotting the file system. But anyway, so there's my home directory is right here. This looks like it's a system-generated name, and yeah, so home DJ Ware is mounted on this particular rpool. So they've created one that has a data set called user data. Yeah, and then root. So yeah, I guess that makes sense. zpool list will show you the pool names and their size. So right now, this one is 1.88 gig, and it has 91 meg allocated to it. So it has quite a bit of free space, 1.79 gig. And then our pool, of course, is allocated for the entire remainder of the NVMe drive, and then you have 2.9 gig allocated, and the rest of it is free. Now, this, you'll notice that when we did this, I did this under a normal Linux file system was around 7 point something. So this is as a result of compression. The savings in disk space is a result of ZFS compression. Yeah, so, and then dedupe is 1.x. Now, that will show 1.x. Deduplication, of course, is a feature set of ZFS. So if you have files that have the same size and the same name, and you've copied them to multiple directories, if you're running deduplication, ZFS will only keep one physical copy, and it'll just create pointers to that. But dedupe will also chew up a lot of memory because, especially in systems with a lot of files, a reason for that is it has to keep a list in memory someplace so that it knows if that file gets copied over to another location that it is indeed a duplicate and not a brand new file. So yeah, it's only going to store it once. There's right now the developers of ZFS are recommending that we turn dedupe off. There is some anomalies in the code base. There was some issues where I'm not sure of all the issues, but I know they created this structure called double deduplication, and it was meant to so it would maintain up to a limit. So let's say I had 80 copies of a file, and let's say that my deduplication limit was set at 40. Then what dedupe would do is once it had marked pointers for the 40 files, it would then allow the copy for the 41st file and create a brand new one, and then it would start the deduplication process on that. But I mean, that is really some complicated footwork, and it is not backwards compatible with all of the ZFS releases. So they're in the process, yeah, it created some bugs, and they're in the process of fixing those bugs, but as well as, I don't know what the final status will be, whether or not they'll remove it or what they're intending to do there. But I guess that's neither here nor there, but right now they're telling us to turn dedupe off. And if nothing else, you'll want to do that to preserve system memory. Now, let's see, top, how much memory are we actually chewing up? So I'm using, according to this, about 3 gig. But, you know, I don't always trust. Let's install htop. Glances, NeoFetch, my usual stuff, my usual suspects. Let's go ahead and do that. I'd really like to see what it really is. I could run VMstat, but VMstat's only going to show me buffered memory. Or I could just bring up the GNOME utility, but again, I don't trust that either. So let's see, HTOP. HTOP is saying we have 111 processes, 284 threads, and yeah, indeed it's taking 3.7 gig. So yeah, there's going to be, and I don't know how this is configured yet. I haven't looked at the list of how much, how many files are being maintained here, but 3.7 gig is a little heavy. That's not unusual for ZFS. ZFS does keep a lot of tables in memory. And so, yeah, you will expect a heavier load when you're running ZFS. So, but it also performs faster than most file systems, too. Let's see. Glances with the app cache, 4.3 gigabytes of memory. The other commands you can do under this is, let's see, which do I want to do? I'm not going to try to create any pool data sets just yet until I understand and read through all the documentation on Ubuntu's site, as I'm not quite sure why they have things developed this way. And so I want to understand what their intent is here before I start breaking stuff. All right, so let's do this first. Let's under zpool, I can put in a command called iostat, and I can give it some time frame to look at. Now, normally I should be able to, right here, I should be able to put in the pool name. And for some reason, it tells me it's an invalid command, even though iostat pool and then the interval. All right, so let's try it that way. Okay. So it's now showing me activity on just the R pool. And I think if you leave this out, it should show you both. Yeah, okay. So good. It's showing me both. And it shows you the operations, how many operations of read and write there are, and then how much data was transferred during this 5-second capture window. Now, usually the first one is like a total. So, oh, is it? No, it's not a total. If you do an iostat under Linux, normally you throw the first one that comes back away because it's a cumulative one, and then you watch it from there. But this doesn't appear to be a cumulative. Well, maybe it is. But you can watch and see how the IOs are performing on the system. And then let's see, what else do we want to do? I want to do a zpool list, and that'll show you the allocation. So there's my sizes again, 1.886, 91 meg in use, 7.79 gig free on the B pool, 460 gig available, 3 gig allocated, and about 457 gig available. So yeah, not a big deal. And then dedupe is showing 1.x. Now that doesn't always mean anything, because that can mean that it's turned off as well. And then this is the capacity, any fragmentation that's in here, and then the health. They're both online, so not a big deal there. The other thing I probably would want to do here is the ZFS. You can do a ZFS list, and this will show you all of the data sets that are in the system. And it's kind of the same kind of thing. Man, there's a lot. So it'll show you how much is used, how much is available, and then there's a referring section here, which usually has to do with and if I have reservations or anything like that, or if it's referred to, if they're, this is, oh, that's the, okay, so that's the pool. A little bit of overhead for the pool, and then 2.4, which is what it showed before. This is just weird. I don't know why they have this duplicated like this, but oh well. Anyway, but you get the same information here, and there's my user data down there. I can also do a ZFS list type snapshot. So if I just want to see the snapshots, I can do that as well. And it looks like, from what I can see here, okay, wait, where's my command start? Right there. Okay, so auto ZSys. So it's creating some zero length snapshots, which means there's no new data that's been added to it yet. And this one has 144K of new data. Network Manager, because I made some changes. I haven't made any changes to it yet, so Network Manager is currently running. We'll see if it creates one after I make some changes to it, though. And log, yeah, okay. So we've got some snapshots. I don't know how often it writes, how often it creates snapshots. There's probably a cron job that's running it does it, or there's part of the update status. I noticed there was one that looked like it was an APT command. Was there one that is there one for APT? Maybe. When I installed, well, we can easily find that, right? Yeah. So there is some being generated when I create, when I've added new packages. So let's see if we can force one here. I'll go into here and I'll configure what I want for the system. Oh, one other thing. I use NSLOOKUP, NSLOOKUP, and I should put in, oops. Okay. Oh, looks like it turned off echo. Nine, okay. I'll go ahead and make it the real address. And we'll go down here and put in my actual DNS records. Okay, and we'll restart that. And it has changed it. I'm going to dump this terminal. I got my echo back. All right, so let's see if we get any. Yeah, we got new ones. So it's definitely creating snapshots anytime there's a modification. So my guess would be that Ubuntu is using this as a way to be able to roll back changes through the snapshot system. And of course, I could roll back the changes for what I just made it to the network manager if I wanted to. I suppose the other thing to look at is get all. And let's look at bpool. This will be the options that are set for the, and if you want more information about ZFS, I have a couple of videos on this. So if you want to know more about it, wouldn't mind messing around with creating some data sets for some, like replacing opt and some of that kind of stuff. But I don't, like I said, I don't want to do that until I understand what Ubuntu is doing. So the compression ratio on the B pool is 105. Very light compression, 128 kilobyte record size or block size, if you prefer to use that term. They have LZ4 compression turned on that pool. They're using Form D. Now, the normalization modes is one of the things that will make your system incompatible with another version of ZFS on a different OS. So, if you're interested in that, now, of course, bpool wouldn't be a useful one to be able to migrate back and forth between other machines. But if you're interested in being able to do that, there is information on the OpenZFS website and their wiki. They have a very good tutorial, a very good manual that talks about what features in here you should have turned on if you want to keep your systems transportable. And that depends on what versions you're running. So just be aware of that. We have the primary cache, secondary cache, or default. And of course, we don't have any of the AP caches or anything like that turned on. So, yeah, and then looks like compression, reference compression is 1.0. Dedupe is off. I saw that one. And then these down here, again, are feature sets that may prevent you from being able to migrate or to be able to transport this ZFS pool to another system. So, again, look at the information that is in the OpenZFS site. They'll tell you exactly what you need to turn on. Let's see. For our pool, we'll start up at the top. Looks like 1.72. Now that's a lot heavier compression than I normally use. Compression, of course, is a balance between how much file storage you want to save versus how much time do you want to wait for the files to be able to be opened and read each time, so, or written. Yeah, so that's a little, I usually keep mine about 1.25, 1.5, somewhere in there. But again, I'm not messing with this until I know what Ubuntu's intent here was. I'm sure they've experimented around and have come up with that value is probably best for them. And dedupe is off. It's right here where my cursor is. And nothing else. Logically referenced 42K. Snap device is hidden. Okay. And snapshot count. So, yeah, again, these feature sets would make it either compatible or incompatible. So not any real surprises there, but if you want to see what the actual values of the settings are, you can easily go and do that. The other thing that I was, so ZFS obviously works in an experimental mode. We won't try to put this into production, but as far as being able to kick the tires on it and play around with it and blow it up, maybe it might be a good place to do that. So I'm not going to look at anything else on this other than talk about WireGuard for a minute. I did some research on WireGuard, and it is a text-based install. And so I'll probably come back and do a separate video on that, make it more non-specific to just Ubuntu. One of the things here that you can always do, and then I'll make one other change before I get off tonight, and I'll show you what I'm going to do there. But yeah, normally, like OpenVPN has a shim for network managers, so I can go in here and configure my VPNs up any way I want. Or if I'm using pfSense, it looks like probably a video is probably something to look at, is that pfSense has a package that you can install optionally for OpenVPN that will create the config file or the conf file that has the settings, the router, the keys, and all that stuff, everything you need in order to get the VPN up and running. So yeah, it's not a big deal to do. I mean, you can just export it off of pfSense and then load it straight into here, and voila, you're up. So it's not too difficult. But WireGuard doesn't appear to have that shim installed for Network Manager, so it's all done from the command line. And of course, it would be more labor intensive because you have to generate the keys locally. And I don't know how all that fits together yet. So until I've done it, I won't know. And I'll probably do that next week. Probably play around with it a bit and see where we go and end up with it. But so here's what I want to do right now. So I'm going to change my host name to a fully qualified one. And before I go and do a set host control, I don't know why the set host control guys don't go in and modify the Etsy host for us, but they don't. I wish they did. Please. I mean, how hard is it for your program to do that, right? Okay. So yeah, so the reason I'm doing that is that anytime you use sudo, it's going to validate that it can validate the host with the DNS. So it's going to give it a fully qualified name and see if it gets a response back. Well, because Network Manager doesn't allow you to put the domain search in it. At least I haven't seen any place. Did you see any place in there where I can put a domain search in here and override the stupid DNS mask? I'm sorry. I mean, this DNS mask that is running on these systems today. Let's see. No. Anywhere in here? No. Use this only if, yeah, I know. I don't see anywhere in here where I can enter a mask. Search domain? No. Details? No. I can remove it. Connect, make available to other users. Metered connection. There's no place to put the search for the domain. So that's why I'm having to do this. Sudo will try to do that. So if I don't have my host file, which is a shortcut to get around it, this will time out. The sudo will force the timeout because it's going to be looking for the yellow ice in the domain to get a response back before it allows the sudo command to complete. Now it'll go ahead and complete it, but it'll give you a warning that it wasn't able to validate the host. So I want to do a set. If that made any sense to you, I'm going to fully qualify the host name here. And you'll notice that the sudo command completed. Now I can put in host name control with a sudo, and it'll come right back and show me what my current settings are. But if I hadn't gone in and modified Etsy host, the sudo command would have timed out. It would still ask me for the password, but it would have timed out. Anyway, that's all I wanted to really accomplish today. So sorry about that. So what I need to really complete in order to do this is the WireGuard, and that's still on my list to do. But ZFS obviously works. I mean, it's obviously working. I want to mess around with it a little more. I might do maybe a channel update and put some of this information in it. Been meaning to do that. To get a couple of channel updates out to talk about, okay, so I did this, I found this problem, this is how it was resolved, so you guys know what's really going on there. Yeah, it works fine, and I know it's experimental, so I'll treat it as such. I don't know whether I'll keep this long-term or not on the NUC. The NUC I normally use, I just obliterate and put new operating systems on it as they become available. So if I feel the need. Now, Cubes was the last one that was on there and had been running on there for quite a while. So I I saved Cubes, it's right there. But so I can do that. The only other complaint I have is just back to why can't I choose a external drive or a Thunderbolt drive in order as a place to install the operating system? I don't understand that. And That's really all I had. Hope you enjoyed this today. And as always, please like and subscribe. And if you have some comments, sure, put them down below, good or bad. I learned from the bad ones just as much as the good ones. So, yeah, it makes no difference to me. So hope to see you all again real soon. And bye for now.